What's going on, guys? My name is Jerry. Today I'm going to show you how to get started with TikTok ads, specifically how to run a ad campaign on TikTok. That being said, if you don't know much about me, obviously I'm Jerry, like I said. I'm a creative advertiser as well as a TikToker. Yeah, I know, pretty crazy, huh? But anyways, that's not what we're here for. Today I'm going to show you and give you insights on the TikTok ad platform to best leverage your marketing efforts specifically on TikTok. So, first things first, if you haven't already, you're going to have to set up a TikTok ad account. If you haven't done that, I'm going to link it down below, direct link. All you have to do is sign up. Once that's done, you're going to be given access to a TikTok ad account and you'll be able to access the ad platform. Once we're here, all you have to do is click on campaign, click create, and you're going to end up on this page. So before we get started, the TikTok ad campaigns are structured in sort of like three tiers. You have your campaign, which is the page that we're on right now, ad groups, and the ads. If you're not familiar with this, I'm going to go ahead and give you the rundown once we're at those specific stages. But for now, let's take a look at the advertising objectives. As you can see, we have 5 different objectives to choose from. One is reach, traffic, conversions, app installs, and video views. Which objective you choose is going to be completely dependent on the outcomes that you want for your campaign. For today's intents and purposes, we're just going to go ahead and go with a simple traffic campaign just to get acquainted with the platform. And I'm going to show you how I would go about setting up a campaign. So first things first, let's go ahead and rename this. It's always good to be tidy with your names so that when you're on the platform and you can just analyze your campaigns at a bird's eye view. So call it traffic test. We're not going to do any split testing right now. Again, I'm just going to make up like a hypothetical campaign and show you how I would go about setting up ads on the platform. Hit continue. Now, once we hit continue, we're going to be presented. Now we're at the ad group level. Let's use that same practice that we use. Stay tidy. We don't want ad group 2020071. We don't want that. We want nice and clean. So let's call it ad group test. All right, awesome. Now let's move on to placement. So when it comes to placements, I do highly recommend that you untoggle everything except TikTok. The reason being is right off the bat, depending on if you're trying to appeal to a global audience or not, some of these aren't going to be ran. So for example, Vigo is in India, Hello is in India as well, and Pangle is in Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. So there's no need for that. And one of the advantages of doing so is also only having to worry about one creative type in terms of how it's formatted, which would be the TikTok native creative. That rhymed. Pretty cool. All right, so now that we have that untoggled, we're going to move on. Okay, it's lagging just a sec. Let's give it a moment. All right, cool. Good to go. Now let's move on to the ad details. We're given 2 promotion type options, apps or website. We're just going to stick to website. Let's set a theme for this campaign. Let's say that we were running an ad to get a book sale. I think that's a good example. What we're going to do is I'm going to set up the URL as my website, but in this specific scenario, you're going to want to set up your specific product page or landing page, depending on what your objective is, right? And definitely go to advanced settings and toggle pixel. So for those of y'all that aren't familiar with what a TikTok pixel is, what it does, I'm going to give you a brief overview. So essentially a pixel is a piece of code that you install onto your website, which essentially lets you track user behaviors on your site. So let's say, for example, you can set up an event for add to carts. You can set up an event for view page. You can set up an event for initiate checkouts, purchases, pretty much everything, lead submissions, contact forms, etc. So depending on what it is that you want to accomplish, you're going to have to set up your pixel appropriately. Now, if you haven't done that, I made another video going more in depth on how to properly install that pixel onto your page. So definitely check that out. I'm going to link it down below. For now, I don't necessarily have a pixel event for, let's say, a purchase. So I'm just going to go ahead and put page view. Again, if you're going for purchases, by all means, like toggle purchase or whatever funnel event you're actually trying to attain, right? Depending on the stage of the funnel that you're targeting. Now, display name, we're going to go ahead and call it marketing. And this is essentially your username on TikTok. One thing to note, you don't need a TikTok profile in order to run ads on the platform. So if you don't even have a profile, but you want to run ads for your store specifically, no problem. All you have to do is change the display name. Let's go ahead and upload a picture. This would essentially be the little picture on your profile, or when you're swiping the For You page, same deal. Upload this for now. Bam, looking good. All right, so let's move on to category. This is important. You're going to want to narrow down on your category so that the algorithm better understands who to actually target. So try and be as specific as possible as to what service you're trying to provide, what product you're selling, what your website's about, etc. So let's try and find something related to books. Let's say specifically we're running an ad to get a book on something related to marketing. Let's do that. So let's find it. Education and training, maybe? No. Entertainment? All right, books and magazines. Cool. Now moving on to ad tags. So the way I want you to think about ad tags is very similar to Google keywords, obviously, and interest targeting on Facebook. So think about it almost, if you're familiar with TikTok as a platform, as hashtags. Like, what hashtags would you use on your post to try and filter who you want to target? So we're just going to go ahead and write books. That's an important one. Marketing. Let's just leave that for now. You can insert up to 20 different ad tags. One practice that I do implement specifically on Facebook is, say, for example, for each and every individual ad set, I'll actually test within those ad sets an individual interest, which in this scenario would be an individual ad tag. Now, the reason why I do that is because I want to see specifically what interest or ad tag is best performing and catering to my audience. So maybe you can even have like a dependent variable ad tag, which would be maybe books. And then you try marketing as a secondary, as like the variable, and you just alternate that within ad groups. That is a practice that I suggest that you try out. It also allows for scalability in the long run because you know what interests are working best, so you know where to allocate your budget. So definitely consider that. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and clump these two together, but just keep that in mind. User comments, definitely leave those on. One of the biggest indicators that you have a great creative for TikTok's algorithm is just how much people are watching it through and how much they're engaging with it. So super important. And video downloads, I don't see why not. If someone likes your ad enough, which would be great, they can go ahead and download it, maybe upload it to a different social media site, whatever it might be. So I don't see the reason as to why we would take that off. Now, automated creative optimization. If you're not familiar with this, this is essentially the same thing as dynamic creative on Facebook. So let me give you a visual of this. Let's say, for example, you have 3 different videos and 3 different captions, right? What it's going to do is it's going to take those 6 different elements and alternate them with each other to find which ones are performing the best. And over time, it's going to start refining that and simply show that specific ad to the people. Instead of just having like 6 different ad setups, you have all these multiple variations, and ultimately it's just going to show the best performing one. We're going to leave that untoggled, but it's definitely a good tool to use. It's just dependent on whether or not it best serves your business and your objectives. Now, audience. I think people that already have a pre-existing audience or an email list are going to thrive on this app or on this ad platform specifically, because you're pretty much ahead of the game. You're not necessarily running like cold traffic or anything. You already have an established audience that you can create custom audiences for and lookalike audiences as well. And the way to import that, all you have to do is go up to library, down to audience, and simply upload a CSV file, name your audience, create a lookalike based off of that, all that good stuff. Demographics, we're going to leave that untoggled, by the way. All right, so demographics, location. So location is somewhat limited. Definitely sift through it and see which one best applies to whoever it is that you're trying to serve. We're going to leave it as is. Gender, no limit. Age. Now, one thing to consider about age, even if you don't know like exactly who your target audience is, I would leave age untoggled, specifically because it's going to start testing different age groups. And depending on what's performing best, the algorithm is going to feed it mostly to that specific age group. So if you're not too certain on who it is that is like your desired age demo, just leave it untoggled, let the algorithm do the work. Languages, let's just say English. And interest category. Something to note about interest category, it's just sort of like helping further identify who your audience is. Now, one thing I will say, if you can't find an interest category that specifically tailors to who it is that you want to target, down to the T, I would just leave it blank. Let's see if we can find something related to marketing or books. So maybe under education. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But again, it's kind of, this is somewhat limited. If you can't find something that directly correlates with what it is that you want to sell, promote, whatever it might be, I would just leave it untoggled. And lastly, you do have the option, it's a little bit hidden here, but to play around with which devices you want to target. Now, I wouldn't necessarily mess around with this too much unless you have proven data from previous campaigns or other platforms that your users are on Android or iOS, or they have a specific connection type. If not, I would just leave it as is. One thing that I do sort of factor in or consider in almost all my campaigns is I do tend to, at times, just do Wi-Fi only, because if you think about it, a lot of people are more inclined to actually make purchase decisions specifically when they're at home as opposed to on the road, taking a walk, walking the dog. It just makes more sense that at home they're in a more passive state and they're more inclined to actually make a purchase decision. I'm not telling you to toggle it or untoggle it. I think it's best to just leave it untoggled, but if you do decide to go down that route, Wi-Fi could be an option. I'm just going to leave it as is. Now, budget. Now, the minimum on TikTok ads right now is $20 per day. So we're just going to go ahead and do that and run continuously. We don't really have to fiddle with that right now. Optimization goal. Since this is a traffic campaign, it only allows us to optimize for clicks. And standard bid. Cool. Now, the best way that I can describe this, say, for example, one, you have to know your products and know your business, what your numbers are, like what your CPAs are, what your average CPCs are as well. In short, the best way that I can sort of like dumb this down and describe it is, say, for example, you're selling a book and you know you have a profit margin of $10. So historically on your website, 1 out of 10 visitors converts into a paying customer. That being said, on average, you would need a CPC of $1 in order to at least break even. And that's what TikTok is asking you right now. Like when you insert this bid, what's the average that you would be willing to pay per click to get someone onto your site? So for this specific scenario, given that sort of like reference that I just explained, we're just going to leave it at 1. Now that doesn't mean that every click is going to cost you $1. Why isn't it letting me? There we go. It doesn't mean that every click is going to cost you $1. It might cost more. It might cost a lot less. It's just giving sort of like a target to hit when it comes to bidding and competing against other people as well. Show more options. All right, so it's going to bill us for every click. And delivery type, we're just going to leave that standard. I don't necessarily suggest that you do accelerated. That just means that it's going to push it out, your entire budget out as quickly as possible. Really no need. And you have third-party tracking settings as well. All right. Now, oh yeah, one thing to mention, TikTok does recommend that your very minimum of your bidding is at least 20x of your budget. So that would be like spot on right now. If we have a bid of $1, it does recommend that your daily budget be $20. So whatever your bid is, in order to define a daily budget, at least 20x your bid. Just something to note. Now, next, moving on to what I believe to be the most important element of TikTok ads is going to be the creative, hands down. For those of y'all that have been on TikTok for a while, you understand the importance of creating native content for the app. This is like, it's not Instagram, it's not Facebook, it's not Snapchat, it's totally different. One of your main objectives, why is this on there? Hold on. One of your main objectives on TikTok is to create native content. You don't want to stick out like a sore thumb because people are just going to swipe away immediately. Remember, like, people are on these apps to be entertained. They're not there necessarily to purchase. So pulling them out of that element is going to take a little bit of creativity and a little bit of disguising as well. So let's go back to that. Now that Pangol's untoggled, could have sworn that was already untoggled. All right, cool. We're back in business. So single video, add to computer. One thing to note is the resolution does have to be 1080 by 720. I'm going to make a separate video on how I best suggest that you create your TikTok creative for your ads. And it's going to be directly off the app, but you do have to do a little bit of editing or reformatting later on in order to get it to that 1280 by 720. Just something to keep in mind. Not going to go into that right now. And let's go ahead and upload. Let's do this. Cool. So this one's already re-edited to the 1080 720, as you can see right there, and that's why it's ready to upload. If you try and upload a video like straight from TikTok, it's not going to work. It's going to say that that file type is not formatted, or maybe that just has to do with the format of my own phone. But again, it's going to be dependent. Let's upload that. So I do a lot of book reviews on my page, and typically they do fairly well. I think on average they get like 100K plus views. So I wanted to do I'll show you the video right now once it's ready. One thing to note is with TikTok specifically, like I said, it's going to be super, super important that you disguise who it's for. All right, let's check it out. All right, cool. So one thing to note, all the ads on TikTok, they do have to be in video format, whether it's like a lot of pictures put together in order to create a video, and they do have to have some sort of sound, whether it's someone talking over the ad or it's some sort of royalty-free sound. Something to keep in mind. Go ahead and change the ad name. Let's call it book ad number 1, just so that we know what it is. And text. One thing to note is when it comes to text, you can't insert emojis. I know that sucks, but we're just going to have to live with it right now. Check out this. Let's spell today. Jeez. New book to sharpen. I swear I can't spell. Sharpen your marketing skills. I was like a 3rd grade spelling bee champion, so I don't know why I can't spell today, but anyways. Now, last step is going to be our call to action. Essentially, you're just going to want a call to action. It's very clear, very concise to what action steps you actually want people to take. So for this, we would do shop now, since we're trying to get them to actually buy a book, and leave it at that. Now, one thing to note is with TikTok, you do have to make a ad spend deposit before you run ads. I know like on Google and Facebook, you can just sort of like leave the card on there and it'll charge you after you've reached sort of like your billing threshold. Here, you actually have to deposit the money first, and then you just sort of like eat away at your budget and you can make another deposit. So you're going to have to do that before you actually create the ad, submit it, and it's up for approval and it's up and running. But guys, that's pretty much it. Like I said, my next video is going to be about how to make solid creative for TikTok specifically. But yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun as well. If you guys have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments. Definitely like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. I'm going to start posting a lot more tutorial-esque content here on YouTube, and it's just going to be a lot of fun, guys. I think TikTok ads is going to be huge in the next 2 years for e-commerce. I can definitely see it as one of the most lucrative ad platforms for e-commerce specifically. It's going to be a lot of fun. Really excited to get my hands on here. If you do own an e-com business and you would like to work with me and my agency, by all means, I'll go ahead and link my agency link down below so you can check out our landing page. If you have any questions, go ahead and fill out a contact form. I'd be happy to help, or just, yeah, that's all I got to say. Anyways, guys, it's been a lot of fun. Really appreciate you tuning in. Until next time.